Alright, welcome back to Make It Mental, everybody. What you're looking at here is very, very small suspension I happened to find. I bought a long time ago. This is, if I remember correctly, for some sort of four-wheel drive slot car. For what type of slot car, I don't remember. I bought it a long time ago. I pre-plan a lot of my stuff, and I don't get to it right away. And as any custom builder, such as myself, you're always looking for ideas, the next thing to do, and so you start collecting some parts. And so here I have suspension. This is the axle I showed you in a previous video that happened to be for a toy grade car here. I've taken the knurl off. This is a knurl and this is a knurl, so I've simply chucked this into my drill on this side here, and then I used a file and smooth it out until this gear fit on there. So now I'm looking at suspension options. Is it necessary to have suspension on a drag racing car on the rear? I know on the front it's kind of important for weight transfer to be able to, when a car accelerates, the front end lifts up and it puts traction to the rear. It might be more important to have it on the front than the rear. I'm not sure that rear suspension is all that important, but here's the idea. This deal here rides on the axle or somewhere. It doesn't have to be the axle, but this particular one can ride on the axle. You can mount it somewhere else. And there's a spring, and then there's this keeper, and then this can travel up and down. I doubt I can do this one-handed, but then there's these little circlips or C-clips, and there's these little nuts right here that you can see on this one that you can bolt it to something. So leave a comment in the comment section if you think rear suspension is necessary in a drag car. And as I was digging through some of my other parts here, this is a 3/32 shaft that obviously came off a toy grade car. I didn't pull the plastic gear off, and then I just happened to fit this brass gear to it, and it fits on there precisely. And then here's a motor pinion gear. So there's another option as well for 3/32. I don't know. I might build two of these. I'm not sure which option I want to go through to start with just yet. I am going to start with the 3/32 axle. I believe this is a 1/8 inch axle. I stand corrected if I mentioned something differently before. I think I am going to use a 130 or 180 sized motor for both of these, because just about everybody has access to it, and you can take them out of a bunch of different toy grade vehicles, and put them to good use. And a lot of these slot cars have high RPM motors. They're very low torque. That might actually work well for this particular application, where you get a very little wheel spin at the beginning and then a lot of high speed towards the end of the track. I don't know, that actually might be more desirable for this type of build. I think one of these I want to build as light as possible, although in my experience so far, building light does not necessarily mean better performance in a smaller scale because of the lack of traction in comparison to the amount of power you're producing. So I do plan on making one heavier out of aluminum, and then I might make one out of this ABS right here to make it as light as possible, just to compare the difference. I don't know yet. I'm still kind of brainstorming this process as I go. Most everything I do is going to be custom anyway, so I do have enough parts here, if they wear out, to make at least a replacement. And when you do custom work, do you want to take those kinds of things into consideration? There are lots of replacement parts for these types of crown gears. So Do you want to go out one-off and use like gears from a drone where you can't find parts for? I've done that in that Camaro right there, although I haven't decided on whether or not I want to spend $60 on a receiver. Same with the Porsche, it's got a brushless motor in there. I haven't decided if I want to spend another $60 on a receiver. Definitely the most expensive part of the vehicles. And that's what another thing you have to consider is the cost of everything. And it's, you know, is it worth it when you can buy a 1/24 scale, a very basic, bare bones with proportional steering and proportional throttle for approximately $60 plus tax in most cases for a very cheap one, and they can go in excess of $200 easily. So these are the things you have to weigh when you're doing a custom RC. Is it worth having a one-off, or do you want to just go ahead and spend the money and get one? You know, something to keep in mind.